Hi, folks. I hope everyone's having a positive and happy day. You don't have to move halfway across the world to reinvent your life like I did, but I do think you need to ask yourself a few important questions. The first was I happy? The second, was I fulfilled? And the third was, why am I doing all of this? And back in the summer of 2024, what I found is that there were things in my life that made me happy. Many days I woke up with anxiety and stress. So for me, the happiness question was, yeah, I was sort of happy, but I found that happiness in weekends. So the second question, in terms of was I fulfilled, for me, the job at this point, and I was doing recruiting and recruiting leadership, was fulfilling in some ways, but not in others. By this time in the summer of 2024, we were seeing that corporations were laying off a lot of people. And I think that a lot of these companies were treating people more like assets instead of like human beings. And that really bothered me. And though I felt great when I got somebody a job, I woke up every day and I wasn't excited about going to work. It wasn't making me feel good about everything I was doing, especially when I saw friends and colleagues get laid off. It was difficult. For me, I just didn't want to help companies make millions of dollars anymore. I was kind of past that, and my values were at a different level at this point. And then third, why was I doing this? And what I mean by this is I found for me that I was working to live, meaning that I was doing my job, I was making a good salary, but it was all about living in that small, quiet, 2-bedroom apartment in Mountain View. And I remember distinctly like standing in my apartment and saying to myself, Scott, this is why you're doing this. This is why you're working, so that you can stay here, so that you can stay in this situation. And what I found for me is that that just was not enough. Grab a pen, grab a piece of paper, and make a list, right? And what are the things that make you happiest in your life? And it can be a list of 10 to 15 things. And within that, you can even look at in your working life, what are the things that make you happy? And I'll give you an example. I mean, I love talking to people. I loved hearing about their careers and, seeing what their passions were, what their curiosities were. And I loved helping them along their career journey. And this reflects in my career coaching too. I love helping people get prepared for interviews or writing a resume. So I think it's important to identify for you what happiness is, because your happiness is going to be different than what my happiness was or is currently. So second, let's talk about fulfillment. What are the things that make you feel good about waking up every day? And I'm sure that there are things in all of your jobs that you do that make you feel really good. And whether that's solving a problem or helping people in your company or helping customers, whatever it is, I would write down what makes you fulfilled. And then again, think about in your life, what is fulfillment in your life? What makes you feel great about waking up every day? And then I think when you have those two lists, you can start thinking about your current situation and how many of those things that you wrote down are currently checked off in your list. They're like, yes, I'm doing this thing that makes me happy. Yes, I'm doing this thing that makes me fulfilled. I think that will help you identify kind of where you want to go and what you want to do. So the third question is, why was I doing this? And you can ask yourself the same question, why are you doing this? And I think for me, there were two answers to the question. Like I said, one was working to live. And that's where I found myself that my job, although it wasn't super fulfilling, it was providing a certain lifestyle. But what I find for myself now in Chiang Mai is that I'm living to work. And what I mean by that is I found that coaching really helps me be impactful for people. And I do it according to my own values. I do it according to my own desires. And I approach the work as I want to approach the work. Living to work means everything that I'm doing is contributing to my life. And here in Chiang Mai, when I want to do the coaching business, I can frame it the way that I want to frame it. But including in living to work, I can also get up every day and go to the gym. I can play music here. I can do things that make me very, very happy. So I would encourage all of you to think about that. Are you working to live, or are you living to work? And look, I also understand that not everybody can make huge changes like I did. And to be completely transparent and fair, this wasn't a change that I just made on a dime. It took a while. I left my job in November of 2023, and it took me almost 9 months to get my head right and to make the decision to move to Chiang Mai. So it was not a super fast process. It took me time to get everything ready. So I think for all of you, you can think in terms of smaller steps. And maybe good ideas for you are look at your list of happiness and fulfillment and try to add just a few of those things into your life. Maybe one thing a month, right? So for you, I think about those things that make you happy and try to incorporate those in your life, because I think that will bring more perspective, and that will allow you to see what you want to do to, make some changes. Another thing that I found really important for me is when I made that decision, in late spring, early summer of 2024, I knew that for me to really go to Chiang Mai and to really make this happen, I was going to have to separate myself from the Bay Area, but ending my lease on my apartment, selling my car, and then looking at all the stuff that I had gathered over most of my life and saying, you know what, I don't need all this stuff. And so I gave some of it away, I sold some of it, I donated a lot of it, and I threw away what I didn't need anymore. And I'll be honest, there were some things that were difficult to part with, but at the end of the day, when I got on that plane to go to Thailand, I left a few things with family, but for the most part, I had one bag and one backpack, and that was it. And that's what I brought to Chiang Mai. It's not always a big leap that you need to make to reinvent your life. Again, I mentioned before, start small. Look at your list again about what makes you happy, what makes you fulfilled, and try to bring some of those things into your life. Small changes can lead to big changes that you don't even realize are going to happen, right? And so I think at the end of the day, folks, when you think about all this, when you think about life reinvention, and this can happen at any age, it doesn't matter whether you're just graduating from college or you're like me, you're 60 years old or you're over 50. You can reinvent your life at any time. But I think it really comes down to getting your mind right and understanding that you create your reality. But I really do believe, as Neville Goddard and Dr. Joseph Murphy and others say, that we all create our own realities. And a lot of that is wrapped around the inner conversations in your head. Like, what are you thinking every day? What are you telling yourself every day? And let me give you an example. People might wake up every day about their career and say, today, I'm going to get a job. I'm going to find a job. I'm going to find a great job. I'm going to find a great company. But then during the day, you're having conversations in your head as you send out job applications and you don't get a response, or you get ghosted by recruiters or by hiring managers. And you're thinking in your head, God, this is never going to work. I'm never going to find anything. You're canceling out what you were telling yourself before. You really need to control your inner conversations. And when you start shifting into that negative mindset, into those negative discussions, just cut them off. Stop and change it to something positive. And as Neville Goddard has said, if you have to do this 100 times a day or 500 times a day, that's okay. Just keep cutting yourself off and changing to the positive. I wanted to be here long term. 2, I wanted to find, a partner who was my age and somebody that I could share my life with, which I've done. And 3, I wanted to make the coaching business work, from Chiang Mai and not doing it in America. And I've made that work too. So again, think about your happiness, think about your fulfillment, think about why you're doing these things. Create lists and understand these things that make you happy and make you fulfilled. And do the things that bring you happiness. If that's spending time with your family, if that's going to the gym, if that's watching your favorite team play sports, if it's watching Netflix, whatever it is, try to incorporate these things into your life, because happiness is going to bring happiness. Again, remember, folks, you create your reality. Your reality is created from inside your own head. What you think, you will manifest. And if you think negatively and you think that things are bad and you live in a state of fear or lack, then those are the things that you're going to bring to you. So instead of the quote that says, everything I fear comes to me, why not think everything I love comes to me? And I think that you will see positive results. So if this video had any meaning or value to you, I would really appreciate a like. If you feel like subscribing for more videos, that would be great too. I hope everybody has a great, great, great day. Again, Sawadi Krop, everybody take care, and we'll talk again soon. Thanks so much.